On March 5, the Women's Prize for Fiction will announce its longlist for 2024. I quote from the website of the prize: "Any woman writing in English, whatever her nationality, country of residence, age, or subject matter, is eligible. Books must be published in the United Kingdom between April 1 in the year the prize calls for entries and March 31 the following year. That covers 9 months of 2023 and 3 months of 2024. Honestly, the Women's Prize for 2024, like every year, is more like a Women's Prize of the last year, of 2023, since 75% of the time span falls into last year. Never mind. The shortlist will come on April 24 this year, and the winner is a famous sentence. We will hear that one. The winner is on June 13. From last year's long list, I read Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks. I read Children of Paradise by Camilla Grudova, Black Butterflies by Priscilla Morris, Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, Wandering Souls by Cecile Pin, and of course the winner, Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. 6 out of 16, which is more than from any other long list last year, from my perspective. So maybe the Women's Prize is my favorite. I like predicting and constructing a possible list, my long list of the prize, and I sincerely hope that one day, one year, I will predict a whole long list right. Will I ever be able to do that? Probably not, but let's try it one more time. Here comes Rainer's long list for the Women's Prize 2024. 16 books, my friends. Number 1 on that list is The Memory of Animals by Claire Fuller, published by Fig Tree on April 20 last year. Neffy is a young woman running away from grief and guilt, and one big mistake that has derailed her career. Then a virus hits the world. She's a guinea pig for testing a new vaccine against it, but then the virus mutates. Fuller, she describes a world and a city in a crisis and how one character tries to cope with that. That is The Lost Wife by Susanna Moore, published by W&N on April 27 last year, in the first month of eligibility. 1855. Sarah Brinton sets out from Rhode Island, leaving an abusive husband and child behind to head west across the country. She finds a new man living on the edge between white settlers and Native Americans. She befriends and works with the Sioux women in her environment where she's living. But then conflicts arise between the settlers and the natives, and Sarah is torn between both sides, and it's very difficult for her to make a decision. A story about freedom and oppression, intimacy and violence, and a woman caught in the crossfire of one of the most seminal and shameful moments in American history that many people in the United States today want to forget. And that's why they ban books like this. Hopefully it's not going to be banned. The Guest by Emma Cline, published by Chatto and Windus, was one of my favorites last year. It was published on May 18. One misstep at a dinner party, and the older man she's been staying with dismisses her with a ride to the train station and a ticket back to the city. With few resources but a gift for navigating the desires of others, Alex stays on the island. She drifts like a ghost through the gated driveways and sun-blasted dunes of a rarefied world, trading destruction in her wake. There's a lot of things going on there and a lot of things happening when Alex is trying to get back into that world that she so desperately wants to be a part of. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang was a very funny read for me last year. It was published by the Borough Press on May 25 in 2023 in the United Kingdom, and I also like its total yellow cover. Athena Liu is a literary darling, where June Hayward on the other side is literally nobody. So that's the problem. But when June just happens to witness Athena die in a freak accident where she's swallowing something and gets stuck in her neck, she realizes now is her chance to find fame. So what if that means stealing her friend's work? So what if that means creating a new racially ambiguous identity? Well, what is she going to do, June Hayward? So what if a social media scandal is about to blow her cover? That doesn't sound so good. It sounds dangerous. As her lies mount up and threaten her stolen success, how far will June go to keep what she thinks that she deserves. This is a funny novel about book business, about cultural appropriation, about a lot of other things. When We Were Sisters by Fatima Ashgar was published by Corsair on June 1 in 2023. Fatima Ashgar traces in that book the intense bond of three orphan siblings who, after their parents die, are left to raise one another. The names are Kausar, Aisha, and Noreen, and all of them struggle with their own problems. When We Were Sisters tenderly examines the bonds and fractures of sisterhood, names the perils of being three Muslim American girls alone against the world, and ultimately illustrates how those who've lost everything might still make homes in each other. Time for book number 6 on my list, and this is a book that many have raved about, Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein, published by Granta on July 6th last year. A woman moves from the place of her birth to a remote northern country to be housekeeper to her brother. The country, it transpires, is the country of their family's ancestors, an obscure though reviled people. Well, after a while, soon after she arrives, actually, a series of unfortunate events occurs, and the locals might think that she could be the reason. This is interesting. This book was actually shortlisted for the Booker Prize last year, and it also won the Scotiabank Gilla Prize in Canada, Canada's most prestigious prize for English-speaking literature. The Fraud by Zadie Smith, published by Hamish Hamilton on September 7, 2023. I think this book will definitely be on the list. It's the second historical novel. Kilburn, 1873, the Tichborne trial has captivated the widowed Scottish housekeeper, Mrs. Eliza Touchett, and all of England. Mrs. Touchet is a woman of many interests: literature, justice, abolitionism, class, her novelist cousin, and his wife, this life and the next. But she's also skeptical. She suspects England of being a land of facades in which nothing is quite the way it seems. Andrew Bogle, meanwhile, finds himself the star witness, his future depending on telling the right story. Growing up enslaved on the Hope Plantation in Jamaica and the Caribbean, he knows every lump of sugar comes at a human cost, that the rich deceive the poor, and that people are more easily manipulated than they actually realize. Based on real historical events is this book by Zadie Smith. Next one is also from a star of literature, The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff, published by Hutchinson Heinemann on September 21, 2023. And we have here already my third historical book. A servant girl escapes from a settlement. She carries nothing with her but her wits, a few possessions, and the spark of God that burns hot within her. What she finds is beyond the limits of her imagination and will bend her belief of everything that her own civilization has taught her. The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff is a work of raw and prophetic power that tells the story of America in miniature, through one girl at a hinge point in history, to ask how and if we can adapt quickly enough to save ourselves. Now we're halfway through, and we start with the second half of books, of the 16 books that are on my long list. Land of Milk and Honey by C. Pam Zhang, published by Hutchinson Heinemann on September 28, is another American book. A smog has spread. Food crops are disappearing. A chef escapes her career in London, England, to take a job at a decadent mountaintop colony seemingly free of the world's troubles. There, her enigmatic employer and his visionary daughter have built a lush new life for the global elite, one that reawakens the chef to the pleasures of taste, of touch, and her own body. In this atmosphere of hidden wonders and seductive violence, the chef's boundaries undergo a thrilling erosion. Soon she is pushed to the center of a startling attempt to reshape the world far beyond the plate. C. Pam Zhang's new book is sensuous and surprising. Its joy is and bitingly sharp and told in alluring language. Land of Milk and Honey is a striking novel about food, about sex, and the intricacies of desire and longing. And isn't that fascinating? That's my question to you, my dear followers. Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Woods was published by Scepter on March 7, 2024. It will be actually published by Scepter. A middle-aged woman leaves Sydney, Australia to return to the place she grew up, taking refuge in a small religious community hidden away on the stark plains of the Australian outback. She doesn't believe in God or know what prayer is, and finds herself living this strange reclusive existence almost by accident. But disquiet interrupts this secluded life with 3 visitations. First comes a terrible mouse plague, each day signaling a new battle against the rising infestation. Second is the return of the skeletal remains of a sister who disappeared decades before presumed death and murdered. And finally, a troubling visitor plunges the narrator further back into her past. This is a novel from Australia. Number 11 is a novel from the United States. This is Let Us Descend by Jasmine Ward, published by Bloomsbury on October 24 last year, and it's the 4th historical book. On a slave plantation in the Carolinas, North and South, Annie's has survived in the light of her mother's resilience, comforted by stories of her African warrior grandmother. Everything she knows, everything she learned from her mother, how to fight, how to be strong, how to grow up in a world shrouded in darkness. Well, when she is sold south by the white enslaver who fathered her, Annie's must venture onward through the rich but unforgiving landscapes of the American South alone. From the rice fields of the Carolinas to the slave markets of New Orleans and into the fearsome heart of a Louisiana sugar plantation. Searching for relief in memories of her mother, she opens herself to a world beyond her own, teeming with spirits of earth, water, history, and myth. The Future by Naomi Alderman, published by Fourth Estate on November 7 last year. Naomi Alderman, you might know her. She has won the Women's Prize earlier with her novel The Power in 2017. So she's going for the second win, maybe. The future is where the money is, says the blurb. The future is a few billionaires leading the world to destruction. Well, the future is a handful of friends hatching a daring plan. The future is the greatest heist ever, or the cataclysmic end of civilization. Well, who knows? The future is here. Definitely, it is here. The book by Naomi Alderman is called The Future, and it is on my long list for the prize. And the next one, I'm very curious about this one. This is The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan, published by Hodder and Stoughton on January 4, 2024. I have ordered this book from the library. British Malaya, 1930s. Discontented housewife Cecily is seduced by Japanese General Fujiwara and the glorious future he's promising for independent Malaya, free from British colonialism. As she becomes further embedded as his own personal spy, she unwittingly alters the fate of her country. And she does it by welcoming a punishing form of dictatorship under the Japanese in World War II. Japanese occupied Malaya in 1945. Cecily and her family are barely surviving. Her children, Jujube, Abel, and Jasmine, are surrounded by threat and look to their mother to keep them safe. But she can't tell them about the part that she played in the war, and she doesn't know how to protect them. Can Cecily face up to her past to save her children, or is it already too late? Vanessa Chan's novel sounds so interesting. The Vulnerables by Sigrid Nunes, a former winner of the National Book Award in the US, was published by Virago on January 25 this year. 3 strangers are thrown together in one Manhattan apartment. A solitary writer, a Gen Z college dropout, and a spirited parrot named Eureka. As the world outside descends into turmoil, the 3 of them must learn how to live with and care for one another. The Vulnerables reveals what happens when strangers are willing to open their hearts to each other, and how far even small acts of caring can go to ease another's distress. Night Watch by Jane Ann Phillips, published by Fleet on January 25 This year it is the 5th novel that is historical. Another one might make it on the long list. This seems to be a trend in literature in the last year, historical novels. In 1874, we'll go back again to the 19th century, 12-year-old Kona Lee and her mother Eliza, who hasn't spoken in more than a year, arrive at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia, delivered to the hospital's entrance by a war veteran who has forced himself into their lives. There, far from family, a beloved neighbor, and the mountain home they knew, they try to reclaim their lives. Will they be able to do that? In the asylum, Kona Lee pretends to be her mother's maid. Eliza responds slowly to treatment. They get swept up in the life of the facility, the mystery behind the man they call the Night Watch, the child called Wheat, the fearsome woman who runs the kitchen, the remarkable doctor at the head of the institution. These are the ingredients, the characters of Jane Ann Phillips's novel. The last one is Come and Get It by Kylie Reid, was published in January the 30th this year by Bloomsbury in England. Millie wants to graduate, get a job, and buy a house. She's slowly saving up for a job on campus, but when a visiting professor offers her an unusual opportunity to make some extra money, she jumps at the chance. What is going to happen then? Well, Agatha is a writer. She's recovering from a breakup while researching attitudes toward weddings and money for her new book. She strikes gold when interviewing the girls in Millie's dorm, but her plans take a turn when she realizes that the best material is unfolding behind closed doors. As the two women form an unlikely relationship, they soon become embroiled in a world of roommate theatrics, vengeful pranks, and illicit intrigue, and are forced to question just how much of themselves they are willing to trade to get what they want. Well, mostly I used the texts of the publishers here to present the books. I have read 2 of them. I have read Yellowface. I have read The Guest by Emma Cline. Love both of these books. And I hope that we will get an amazing long list already on Tuesday next week, that this will be sort of the ultimate list that is so exciting that I'm going to read again at least 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 of the long list of the Women's Prize, which seems to be my favorite prize. What are your books that you want to see on the long list? Please leave me a comment down below. And I see you soon in another video. Bye.